Good evening.
Good evening.
This Easter night, I think to truly appreciate talking about the resurrection of Christ, we have to take a moment and remember the Good Friday experience. I think all of us have experienced death and dying and know what it is. The feeling of someone being lost. No longer do we have touch. There's a sense that we've been abandoned, we're left alone. There's a certain sense of despair sometimes. Certainly people get desperate. With the disciples, they had a very loving relationship with Jesus. He started a new thing with them, preaching love, companionship, the need of loving one another, of looking out for one another. And suddenly, in just a few days, I was wiped out. They were afraid. They were fearful. They fled. They gathered in a room, hid themselves, and then they hear this word of an empty tomb. And while Jesus had mentioned he would rise, they weren't sure what that meant. They weren't sure that an empty tomb meant that he rose. Was it a conspiracy? What was coming at them now? Did they have to get up and run again because they were coming after them? And so they probed, went out and looked, and found an empty tomb, and the seeds of belief started. They started to believe. And on that day, Jesus started to appear slowly one to another, and they started to believe. And the seeds of this belief grew, as we'll see over the next 50 days, when they get their full strength of faith and belief restored, when we get to Pentecost Sunday and the coming of the Spirit. Certainly, all of us can see that this day is then the day the Lord has made, because it confirms what Jesus taught when he was with us, that he would live, he would rise, that his mission was one that was only completed by his dying and by his coming back, and as we'll see, and going to his Father. So Easter is really the most important day of the Christian year. Without Easter, there wouldn't be a Christian faith. And what or how many institutions or men are remembered for 2,000 years? And Jesus is still remembered and preached even today in all parts of the world, really. There are many faiths, many different ways, but he is remembered and he's preached and he's shown as a way to the Father. And each of us are called to that love that he gave, to that mission that he gave all of us, to love one another, to go out to all the world, to preach, to baptize, to bring his word till the end of time. This is what the resurrection is about. It is the success of God, the success of love over death. And that is what we celebrate tonight. That Christ has overcome and brought full redemption to a broken world.